one more time before I bring this baby home. Hey guys, welcome to another episode of LJ's Garage. Behind me is a Dodge Charger Hellcat. I'm a little late to the game, but you know what they say, better late than never. And I'm excited for this one because for years I've heard so much about the Charger Hellcat, Challenger Hellcat as well, but finally decided to give in and take one for a spin. And yes, I might not be Mopar till I die or Mopar or no car, but I do respect the Charger, Challenger, Hellcat. Pretty much I respect this motor, powertrain, everything that this car has to offer. So today, I'm gonna give you guys my thoughts and a little tour and walk around of the Charger Hellcat. I know what you want some revs. You guys. This is the little baby one. Kitty. Gotta go change the pants. And before I get right into this, if you're new to the channel, consider subscribing, and special shout out to SVG Motors for letting me get my hands on this Charger Hellcat. We're gonna start up at the front and you'll notice pure aggression. I don't know what this car is mad about, but I'm glad it's angry. I'm a little angry. For some reason, driving this just makes you feel so big and tough and powerful. One of the problems that Dodge faces that a lot of other auto manufacturers don't really face is, for example, let's say you've got BMW, you've got their 7 Series, it's got Prestige. You've got the AMG's Prestige, but now you've got this Hellcat badge, but it's tied to a Dodge Charger. And a lot of people are like, oh, I've got that as a rental car. Oh, you know, a lot of people use that in their corporate fleets. What's so special about this? Why should I pay $80,000 or whatnot for this? Used, you're looking at about 40, 50, 60, somewhere in that ballpark for one of these. But I like to argue and play devil's advocate and say that there's a lot that this has to offer. And after this tour, I'm sure you guys will probably think the same thing, that this is actually worth exactly what Dodge says it is. Whenever Dodge did their redesign of the Charger, they went ahead and they rounded off these headlights, which are HIDs. And on top of that, you get the blacked out grille. And then to add a whole nother little bit of flair to that, they went ahead and stole kind of a Dodge Viper style theme when they did the hood. So it looks really good and it ties the whole front end together. And honestly, the best part about this hood is actually that those are real vents. I know you're like, LJ, stop telling me about hood scoops and hood vents and blacked out grills. I don't care about any of that, because what you care about when you buy one of these is actually all of this under the hood. So I'll go ahead and I'll show you guys this and get it out of the way. Let's talk about some horsepower numbers and some torque numbers, because let's be real. Without that, this is just a Charger. I hate to say that. I know you Mopar guys might be ready to fight me, but please don't. Let's be realistic though. Without this motor, it would just be like a Scat Pack, which is cool. Don't get me wrong, Scat Pack, awesome. If you've seen any of my other videos, you know that I respect and love the Scat Pack. I think that this is way too much for the street, but I might change my mind after a little while. It's a 6.2 liter V8. It is supercharged. It makes about 707 horsepower. Everyone knows that number by now. And torque, you're looking at about 650. The thing with the 0 to 60 time is, and I'll get to that when I talk about the tires and the driving experience of the Charger, but the thing is, there are 0 to 60 times all over the place. Some people say 3.7, some people say 4.2, some people say it runs at 12 in the quarter mile, some people say it runs an 11.3. There's all sorts of numbers all over the place, and it all just depends on what setup you're using for your tires, whether you're using launch control, all of those different things. There's a lot of factors that go into it. And as you can see, when this first came out, a lot of people were like, oh my God, this car got beat by a car with 600 horsepower, 500 horsepower. And it's really just a matter of suspension setup and how cars deliver power. And that's why I was always kind of on the other side of this. I'm a driver who likes to be able to use the power in my cars. And this it was just overkill. But I always loved it. It's definitely a car I thought was super cool, super good looking, and super powerful. So there's no denying the power that this thing is capable of. I said this a little bit earlier, but miles per gallon, 13 city, about 21-ish, somewhere on like ballpark on the highway. And those are EPA numbers, not real world. I've heard real world is sometimes better than that. The problem with this car is that nobody who owns one of these drives this the way that a normal person would, or because you don't buy one of these to just go pick up groceries and to say you have 700 horsepower. People have also said that this is more of like a Hammer whereas the German and, you know, Japanese cars and stuff like that are scalpels. That's kind of the best way I like to think of this. This is a hammer, and this is how you use this tool. And you can do a lot of things with a hammer. Am I right? Am I right? You know I'm right. And while I'm here, I want to talk about this key right here. So Dodge, what they went ahead and they did is, if you bought one of these, you got 2 sets of keys. One key is the black key, and it would be kind of cool if it was a blue key. That would have been fun. But one's a black key, and that only limits this car to 500 horsepower. So that's all you get, a measly 500 horsepower. But then, if you have the red key, you get all 707 glorious ponies that are ready to do some work and do some burnouts, because let's also be honest, this thing is terrible when it comes to not wanting to do burnouts. You have to learn how to feather the throttle, and as people have told me, it's like when you first touch a woman for the first time, you got to be gentle. And while I'm holding this key, there's a couple things that it can do. It can lock the doors, obviously. It can also pop the trunk, and then on top of that, you do have remote start. If you lose this in a parking lot, you don't have to worry. This won't be a dude, where's my car kind of moment. If you guys remember that movie, you know, go ahead and hit that like button, because, you know, you guys know that movie. Because this car does have forced induction, you want to make sure you stay on top of your oil changes. You want to make sure you check all your fluids, which you should do anyways, but because the supercharger is thirsty, because this thing likes to consume oil, you want to make sure you do those things. You also notice that in this engine bay, there are 2 coolant tanks, because one is for just keeping the supercharger and all of that stuff nice and cool, but the other one is for the rest of the car. So it is pretty nice to have that, and Dodge has made sure that they take care of this thing when it comes to cooling. So it says that you can drive this thing around the track for probably about 20 minutes without any problems, without any needing to stop and cool down or any of that good stuff. So hats off to you, Dodge. You did good.
Normally we would go right into the interior, but today we're going to do it a little different. We'll go straight to the drive.
I'll just give it a little throttle. You can hear a little bit of that supercharger whine. Okay. Got to get that feel for it, you know. You can't just hop into this thing and go crazy. Give it a little bit more. Ooh. Trouble. And I knew exactly when I always avoided this car, because this is way too much power to safely just be driving every day, and not like for the chances of getting in trouble, like safety wise. I'm talking about just losing your license. Like, this car is so fast, and I've barely given it any juice. I think I'm definitely gonna get Nathan to give it some juice, because no, not this guy. But it's so manageable. It's really manageable, honestly. Just driving around and you don't even realize that you have 700 horsepower under the hood. I'm in love with these red seat belts. They're so cool. I wish I had red seat belts. Man. I'm also in love with the steering wheel. I love a flat bottom steering wheel. It's mostly flat. And I wish I could say, oh man, you don't need all this horsepower and all that stuff, but I don't know. I mean, it's kind of fun. It's kind of cool to say you have this much power. And if you notice any imperfections on this thing, this one's not quite yet ready for sale. It is listed on the website, but it's not quite yet ready. It's extremely comfortable. I mean, I love these seats. I'm really hoping the audio comes through perfectly on this thing. Brakes sharp. And this one, I mean, for a 16, ooh, that's one thing about these. Dodge built these very well. I mean, you got forged internals on top of all the accessories that are designed to help keep this cool, keep it running well, keep it smooth, and just, oh man, really great traction control too. If you think that I'm gonna drive this for the first time, not my own car or not a friend's car, without traction control, you crazy. But I'm definitely enjoying this thing. You can get like Harman Kardon sound in this. This doesn't have any of that, but you're probably gonna turn your radio off like I've got right now. And I'm just gonna, it really takes nothing for this back end to kick out. So you really have to know what you're doing. And I'm not trying to sound like the cheesy gatekeeping type that's like, oh, this car is so scary. No, it's genuinely powerful. I can drive a 400 horsepower car any day, but this, just different. 20 to 60. What's crazy about this is you would think that you can't do this all day. And again, I'm not doing launch control, none of that. There's plenty of videos on launch control around YouTube. I'm not gonna sit here and pretend like this is gonna blow your guys' mind to see launch control in this. It's been done. But I will say this, that because this is designed specifically for getting beat on, because why else would you buy this thing? Literally, there's no reason why you would buy this thing other than to beat on it. This thing is a tank. And just think, you know, you got little Timmy in the back and he's like, oh God, I'm gonna be late for practice. And you're like, nah, son, you're not gonna be late for practice. Or your wife's like, oh, I've got a nail appointment. No, honey, your nail appointment, we're gonna get there on time. You put this thing in track setup, which once you do put it in track, I did go ahead and switch that really quick. And once you put it in track, you'll notice that it does stiffen up. It stiffens up well. But you leave it in normal street setting, you wouldn't really know that you're driving this thing. And just like that, you're just driving through a neighborhood peacefully, enjoying your 13 miles per gallon. And it's just nice. I don't care what people say. They can make boat jokes all day and say that this doesn't put power down efficiently and all that stuff. It's true, it doesn't, but it does make you smile. And it does remind you that we're not gonna have this again. Big old car, big old motor, loud. Like I said before, there's not much to say on this car that hasn't been said, and I just could listen to it purr all day, and I won't make any more Hell Kitty jokes after this because I truly do understand why people love this thing. One more time before I bring this baby home. Just with the paddle shifters. As I said, if you want to see people push this car to the limits, by all means, you'll find that. But what I want to show you guys today is that this is an awesome bargain. You could find these for as low as $40,000. I'm not saying they're the best quality ones, but I do have a friend. He bought a manual Challenger Hellcat with less than 40,000 miles, and that thing has gone up in value, just like most used cars. But this, 5-6 years, these might not be collector's cars, but in 10-15, you're gonna have to dig for something like this. And if you're fortunate enough to be able to afford this and just sit on it and own it, enjoy it. Because these are the cars that excite me. And I hope that after watching this, that you guys are excited and you guys love this, because there's a good chance that our kids might not ever get to drive something like this, and it's sad. But we gotta save the environment, we gotta plant more trees, and we gotta take care of all of that stuff, you know. But this, there's nothing else like this. And as much as I love my German cars, my JDM cars, I do love me an American car. And this just puts the biggest grin on my face. I think anyone will get in this and they'll just be like, what is this? What is this car? And that's what I ask myself. What exactly is this? Who needs this much to take their kids anywhere? So there's a couple things that I want to point out from this view. One, you'll notice you got big old 20-inch wheels. They look so good. And normally, stock, believe it or not, you get 275s on the rear and on the fronts, and that seems kind of underkill to me. And it's really a lot of power. I feel like this car should easily have 300 plus size tires on the rear. That's just my opinion, and yeah, I feel like it's just a lot. Most people can hardly handle 500 horsepower, much less 700 with 275s. I have 275s on my M3 and it's only 400 horsepower, so Just saying, kind of matters, just a little bit. You'll also notice those red brakes, they are Brembo, and they're pretty strong. They get the car stopping in 60 to 0 in like no time. Otherwise, the rest of the styling is just normal Dodge Charger, and you've seen this body style before. You've seen these lines. It's all blacked out. It looks good. You got your Hellcat symbol right there, little Hell Kitty. And I know there's a lot of haters that are like, oh, it's the Dodge Hell Kitty, or they make boat jokes or stuff like that. I've never been a fan of the boat jokes. I feel like they're a little overplayed at this point, but that's just my opinion as well. I actually like the size of this thing. It is heavy. Dodge has made zero attempt over the years when it comes to weight reduction. I feel like that's not what they're worried about. So instead of reducing weight, they just add more power, because now the Hellcat makes way more power than that. You've got the Demon, you've got the Hellcat Red Eye, and this is like nothing compared to those. So now we're on the backside of the Charger. A couple things to point out. You've got your little duckbill type spoiler. I like that a lot. And on top of that, it's got the really cool 69-ish styled taillights. And just look at that. I mean, overall, this back end, it's just cool. Got your dual exhaust, and then I'll show you guys the trunk, because there's a lot of space in there. And then on the back, you'll see that you don't have any Hellcat logos. You don't have anything at all. All you have is an SRT badge. So you got your rear view camera. That's all fine and dandy. Dodge went ahead and they did a good job of actually hiding the release for the trunk. It's right here, so you give that a little push, pops right open. And now you can see you've got access to this large trunk space, and that's what this is all about. It's a large family sedan, so you can throw your cat food, dog food, your cats, your kids, your dogs, everyone can fit in there. And now, look at this. I'm sitting back here. The seat's set for a tall guy or gal. And on top of that, the seat's low riding. Like, they've got this thing tilted back, whipping it, all that good stuff. And I'm just sitting comfortably back here. Plenty of headroom. My legs are just touching this. But if I went ahead and I move this seat forward, and just like that, I'm sitting comfortably in here. This seat is set for just about someone 5'9", 5'10", somewhere in that ballpark, like my height. And I'm comfortable back here. I've got room to spread out, hang out. But really, there's not a whole lot to talk about back here. You do get rear heated seats. You do get your little USB ports, cup holders, all of that stuff that's necessary in this world. You get these nice red seat belts. And one of my favorite colors, speaking of red, is the Go Mango color. For some reason, I like the name of that, but I also like that color itself. One of my favorite wheel tire color combinations is with the bronze wheels with this red. I just think it looks beautiful. You got your blind spot monitoring. You do get keyless entry, so you've got that. And then on top of that, this red, if you guys are curious, I know I talked about the Go Mango, but this one's Redline red, so pretty sharp. Power seats, and they are big and bolstery. Up front, you got this fantastic steering wheel. It's nice and grippy and, you know, meaty, just nice. There's lots of good stuff. It's nice in your hands. It feels good. Feels nice. It's a good feeling. Steering wheel right there. On the left-hand side, you've got your lighting controls, all of that, your trunk release. Standard. Dodge does this thing where they kind of add this little material. It's like a take on carbon fiber. I'm not sure I'm a fan of that, but it's there. Your gauges, they are analog, but in the middle, you've got a little display. That's pretty standard at this point. Paddle shifters to take control of that glorious 8-speed automatic. And if you're wondering, yes, you can only get the Charger in an automatic transmission. Here's your shifter. Let's go up here. What's that right there? Yes, this does indeed have launch control. So you push that button, off you go. And I love that Dodge does their launch control in a really easy way. So all you do, you push that button, you hold the brake, hit the gas, done. There's no going through the menus and configuring anything. All you do is, if you want, I'll show you guys later, you can change what RPM you launch at. So pretty straightforward. Then you've got your red push start button, and that's always nice to have. Volume controls, traction control, which you want to make sure you leave that on, trust me. You got your SRT button, which I'll show you what that does in a little bit. And then normal climate control settings and vents and all that stuff. And this looks just like the infotainment system you'll find in almost all the Jeep Dodge products. I've said that in a lot of videos, but just clarifying again, if you've seen it once, you've seen it before. But let's go into the fun stuff now. Go to performance, which is, look at that. So you got your home screen there. Look at that. Oh, pictures of the car. Oh man, that's exactly what this looks like. Ooh, sharp. Look at that, LED headlights, little LED daytime running lights. That's sick. That's just mean. You can go in here, you got your timers. You'll do your 0 to 60, your 1/8 mile time, 1/4 mile time. I mean, look at that. You can even check your braking distance. Look at that, look at that. Some more gauges. Gauge. So when you really start getting it on the track, which most people wouldn't take this on the track, but if you do and you decide to track drive this thing, you can see how many G-forces you're generating. Go into your engine, you can see how much horsepower you're making. A little baby rev here, you can see. There you go. Now we'll hit the SRT menu. And once you click SRT, this is what it'll bring up. So you'll see that you've got your power is set at 700 horsepower. You got your valet mode, and if you press valet mode, it'll limit how much power the car makes it so that the valet can't do too much damage to your car. And then you can always go back to set everything to default, but if you want, you just click on power, and you'll see that you can hit 500 or 700. Your transmission, you can set it to street, sport, or track. Your paddle shifters, you can use those if you want, which is kind of cool because you wouldn't think that you'd be able to disable those. Your traction control settings, if you want it to be street, sport, or track, it's got all that. Same for your suspension, so I love that. There are very few seats that are sport inspired that are built for people that have a little bit of extra weight, and you will have no problem fitting in the SRT seats. I'm telling you, compared to my M3, you know, that seat is designed for someone that's no more than 190, 200 pounds. This, I'm sorry to say it, but it's built for us larger folks, maybe not me, but larger folks that might need the space and the size. And look at those bolsters. I mean, they're big and beefy. You're not gonna fill those out if you're my size. And I love that, but it kind of feels like it's not really built to hold me in place. It's not quite right. And then while I'm mentioning that, you got a telescopic steering wheel, and you can adjust all that to your liking. But anyways, thank you guys so much for checking out yet another episode of LJ's Garage. Be sure to hit that like button, comment button, subscribe button, all of that good stuff. And until next time, be happy, stay sane, stay healthy, all that good stuff. And I will catch you on the next episode.